very welcome. I am Ahonu, and with me is my lovely Aingeal Rose. And Aingeal Rose has always been on the lookout for little tips and techniques to help people grow in awareness and become aware of the wonder of consciousness. And she's come out with another fantastic, yet simple and effective little idea. And I want to share it with you now. I've brought her here specially so that she can tell you herself exactly what she's come up with. And I think it is nothing short of brilliant.
I have to give a little bit of history. Okay, so I've been into manifesting for probably 40 years now, right? Now, some things I've manifested very, very fast, like within an hour. Other times it took a couple of years. But Ahonu, we always hear from people, they want to know sometimes it doesn't matter how many affirmations they make, they don't work.
That's right.
They want to know why.
That's right.
So I figured out why, Ahonu. I'm so excited. It was quite by accident, or should I say by providence, as you know how things go.
Yes.
All right. So as many of you know, we're publishers. And so we publish different books for people. Sometimes they're revisions, sometimes they're originals. But anyway, a friend of yours sent a book from Ireland. And this is a woman who is elderly now. And most of her work has been around healing birth trauma and healing conception issues. And so didn't I just open up to this page one day? And it happened to be on what happens in the womb when a parent is not happy that they've conceived, okay, or not happy about the pregnancy. What she said, real briefly, was she said that when that happens, that the placenta has a hard time finding root in the uterus. In other words, the attitude of the mother or the father or both about the pregnancy can determine whether that placenta anchors really easily in a healthy way if it's welcomed, or if it has a difficulty rooting itself for the formation of the baby.
Now, I know you're going to explain more about the root bit in a moment, but just let me say that this is not new in terms of the damage that can be done in the very, very early stages of pregnancy. And there's a lot of scientific and medical work done in this whole field of pre and perinatal psychotherapy. But that's not where we're going with this.
We're not. No, I'm just setting the stage.
Yes.
Well, for myself, I was not a welcome pregnancy. So my light bulbs went off when I read that, thought, well, no wonder that there are just a few things in my manifesting throughout the years that I can't seem to materialize. Or there's always a sabotage connected to it somehow. Well, what I realized is that depending on where your mom or dad was when you were being formed in the womb, that has a lot to do with what the cells are actually made of. In other words, I realized that my actual biology was set up on rejection. And that's just one thing.
So these are like core wounds.
They're not just wounds, because I've worked on them emotionally, I've worked on them mentally, but I never realized that my actual physical cellular structure was programmed or fashioned after rejection,
or that
burden.
Its roots were in rejection.
That's right. Its roots were in something not welcome.
Right.
So, and this has been a theme through my life in terms of why, on certain levels, not every level, I encounter varying degrees of where I can't achieve a certain amount of success that I want. So I took that to source. I said, holy cow, that's a revelation. My body, my literal body is made up of rejection. So how do I fix that? And so Source, in its wonderful way, answered me and said, you make a new tree of life for yourself. And it actually gave me an image of a tree, a blank tree with roots, with blank roots, a blank trunk, blank leaves. And it said, make new roots. So I realized what it was telling me was that I had to go and recreate my foundation. I literally had to rechange my cells, and as if I was making myself all over again, physically. And so I went tonight and I drew some pictures of trees and I started filling in the root. I realized the roots were all my foundation. They were the roots I was formed after. And I had to change them all around so that they meant welcoming, delight, happiness, love, acceptance, home. Okay, I put those words in here. Whatever in my mind meant that I was changing things around so that my life would be a wonderful, happy thing,
Because,
not a negative perception of burden.
yes, because there's even a biblical reference to this about the fruits of the tree
The tree.
being fashioned after the roots, how well the roots are nourished.
Right. And Source basically said, make your own tree of life. And that really stood out to me.
So you use these spaces here to fill in
Right. I'll show you what
those
I did.
beautiful affirmations.
Keep that up there. I don't have that particular tree with me. But
That's
anyway,
awesome.
here's another example of another tree. But do you see how, I hope you can see this because the writing is awful fine. But I put in words that described what my new body and foundation for life was going to be. I put what I wanted in there. And then I did it all the way up through the trunk, through the branches, and then with the leaves, I made what I wanted, outcomes I wanted to materialize in my life, qualities I wanted to experience, emotions I wanted to experience. I put them all in the leaves of my tree. And since I've done that, things have drastically shifted, and I mean within a couple days. All right, here's another example. This one's smaller, but it's a different type of a tree. And I did the same thing. And suddenly I realized, well, not only can I make these for my own body and my own life, I can make them for our business. I can make them for my family. I can make healing trees for people. And I've had people ask me recently, well, in our How to Bake a Book in Bite-Sized Bits beta testing class, we decided to use a blank tree for them to flesh out what they wanted their story to be. So the message they wanted to deliver was down here.
So this reminded me, let me just interject for a moment, because what this reminded me of was when you have an apple tree, for example, it's going to bear apples. Or if you have a pear tree or an oak tree, it's going to bear acorns. So in that way, when Aingeal Rose was saying about you can do this for your family, so this might be your family tree. So you're creating the new roots that's going to flourish as a family tree. And this is like the fruit of the tree up here in the leaves, what's exposed to the world, because it's not exposed to the world down here. This is your own personal stuff down in the root that has formed all of this.
Right, but it is all about the roots.
Yes.
Because what's in the roots determines what gets manifested up here.
But when Aingeal Rose was explaining about the course that we're doing right now, How to Bake a Book in Bite-Sized Bits, we used that blank version of that to flesh out exactly. These were the roots of the course. For example, it might have been the table of contents, or it might have been where the origin of the course and what we needed to.
Each person individually.
Each person individually fleshed out this, and then the trunk being the solid parts, the strength of what it's built on. And out here, interestingly enough, when we were talking about writing a book, these were the leaves of the book. And leaves come from that point in time when books and paper was made out of trees, and which a lot of it is still, of course. But these are the leaves of the book. But in the same way, though, to go to the other example, and let's get a bigger one for you. To go to this example here, when Aingeal Rose mentioned about using this for all kinds of reasons, we also did this for a corporation. So in that way, they wanted to be sure that the roots of their corporation were rooted correctly and were deeply rooted and were being nourished. So all of the attributes of the company that they were founded on were all put in here to the roots. And this was the solid, the trunk, the strength on which the roots were manifesting up here. And then all of the leaves became their services and the service and the products that they were offering to the people, plus the qualities that they were offering to the world that can be seen and the fruits that can be reaped by their customers.
Now, what size picture is this?
This one is 19 by 11, I think.
Okay. So the whole point, though, is that in your own life, no matter what you're experiencing, no matter what you're manifesting, you do really have to consider your initial beginnings, your initial roots in terms of your conception. Were people happy about your conception? Your how your body was being formed in the womb, whether it was a welcome, delightful event or it was a fearful burden type of thing in my case, or a rejection.
But this is where you change it. This is the big thing.
This is all about recreating yourself and literally recreating your cells, because we're not joking. This literally starts to change your cells. It starts to change your chemicals. And even if you had a welcome birth, but then you went through a trauma in your life, for example, and that trauma is still impacting you, you can go back with this tree and either erase the event entirely or recreate it. The implications are limitless for this.
Yeah.
But let me show people some other ideas.
But just before we do show you some other examples, I'd like to mention that Aingeal Rose, when she started off this little session today, she mentioned about the law of attraction. And it is the case that everything, we attract that to itself, its likeness. So if you have your own tree of life that is founded or grown in trauma or difficulty or hardship or poverty or anything like that, that's coming from that prenatal period or even early childhood.
Or even, your early childhood.
Early childhood. The law of attraction will continue to attract that to you, you see. And this is why a lot of people have difficulty with the law of attraction and those programs like The Secret and so on, because they're attracting the same likeness to it. What this does is it goes before that.
It changes it at the foundational level.
It changes it at the root level.
Which is where it has to happen.
It rewrites it. And then as that tree grows, it's then attracting to itself these new attributes. And that's what really attracted me to this. I thought it was such a beautiful thing.
And it relates to everything in your life. Whatever's in your life that you feel you would like to be better or is not working correctly, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, whether it's success, it doesn't really matter. The reason why you don't attract what you really want is usually because there's something long ago at a core level that's ingrained as a program somewhere. And sometimes you could change those programs simply by journaling or writing out your feelings or changing your thoughts. But sometimes you have to go deeper. And that's what I found here, that if you change yourself at the core structural level, a lot of things change in your life.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to show you some other examples
of
things I drew.
In order to please my ancestry, which is Irish, she goes with this beautiful, ornate, Celtic type patterns and designs.
Now, what's interesting about it is that, yes, it's a Celtic tree of life, but it also has DNA strands around it. And you can fill in each one of these little ladders of DNA and with whatever you would like to manifest in your life. And obviously that starts to change the DNA in your body as well. Okay, but I colored a smaller one just to show you that you can color them as well. This is my small Celtic tree of life, and I colored all the DNA and I colored the tree and I filled it all in, but you can do whatever you like with them. You can use whatever colors, you can leave it blank, you can leave it black and white. Doesn't matter, it's yours to do whatever you want with. Okay, yes. So let's show them some others.
But here's a beautiful thing. This is so simple and so easy that you can go ahead and draw your own tree at home and fill it in, just like Aingeal Rose is advising. But we've got a little package for you at the end. So stay with us, because we've got a little something that you'll be delighted to hear. So you want to see some other examples?
Let's see the others, yeah. We actually have 4 different trees here today. I have a big one, Ahonu.
You want a big one?
I think I have a big one of that.
We do have a big one of that.
Right. Another tree. And obviously with this one, it's shaped differently and you can put your own roots in the way you want. Okay. And you can make your own tree. It has a little bit bigger spaces to write bigger things. So that's another option.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead, Ahonu. All right, then there's this one that has a lot of roots and a lot of little leaves. And that works really well too. You just need a fine point pen when you're writing it in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we have another type of a tree, different leaves, different shape, more roots. Okay. And then let's see the DNA one again, Ahonu.
And the DNA one.
Right. And then we have the DNA one. Okay. So we have these 4 choices for you. And if you do go for them as an option, they will only print out on your own printer as what, an 8x11?
Like an A4 size, yeah, or maybe even a US letter size, but depending on the size of your printer.
Right. But they can also just download them and take them to a printer and have them made bigger. Like you said, what size did you say these were?
I think they're 19 by 13.
19 by 13 or something like
11.
that. It's nicer if they're bigger. The paper's heavier as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Hannah, but I want to just stress, you can take that, how easy and fun, but how powerful this process is. And I mean it when I say you are literally changing your cellular structure and your chemistry. And because of that, your body can react. And one of the ways I knew I had something more serious going on was because whenever I tried to manifest this one particular thing, I'd have some success with it, but then all of a sudden my body would break down. My left side would go out, or I'd have something else flare up.
There'd be like some kind of sabotage.
It was a sabotage.
Yes.
And I could never figure out. I mean, I was to the point where I thought, do I have a curse on me? Has somebody cursed me? Do I have bad karma? And I realized that's none of it. It has to do with the fact that my body was rejecting anything that wasn't rejection.
Because it was coming up from the roots of your very being.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I meant it when I mean that I realized my physical body was composed of that program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I had to change my physical body. And that's what the roots are.
Now, did anybody notice, by the way, she's wearing earrings that are made of
the tree
of life also.
The tree of life. I put them on deliberately. Today.
Beautiful, beautiful. I spotted that. I should get compliments for that.
Yes, you should. You noticed.
I noticed.
So what do you want to tell our
Well, what I want to say
people?
is we're putting a link down below here so you can order these trees and download them. And as Aingeal Rose says, you will have the option to print them out depending on the size of your own printer, or take them to a print shop and have them blown up. But print them out and also do them for different things in your life. Like, for example, your own business, your own practice, your own life, your children's lives, your health, your home, your project, like a book, like we explained earlier. Use them for all these different kind of things and fill it out and let them flourish as your manifestation. It's a beautiful, simple concept, but really, really very effective. The link is down below, and they're also surprisingly inexpensive.
Very inexpensive. Let's tell them how much, $1.99 per picture. Okay, or $5 if you order the whole set. Easy peasy.
Can't beat that.
And to your empowerment.
Until next time, bye-bye from myself, Ahonu, and from Aingeal Rose.